I should have seen it coming. The signs were all there, but I ignored them, chalking it up to paranoia or just the natural drift that happens in long-term marriages. But no, this wasn't distance. This was betrayal. It started small. My wife, Laura, suddenly took an interest in our backyard. She was never the type to care about landscaping, but out of nowhere, she insisted we needed a gardener. At first, I thought, great, maybe she's finally tired of the jungle our backyard has become. She found a guy, Marco, mid-30s, tan, muscular, the kind of guy who looks like he was ripped straight out of some romance novel cover. I didn't think much of it at first. I work long hours, and if she wanted to spend her time supervising a gardener, so be it. But then she started dressing differently, tight yoga pants, low-cut tops, just to check on the progress. She'd linger outside for hours, always bringing him iced tea, always laughing at his jokes a little too hard. Then came the excuses. I need to run to the store, she'd say, but she'd be gone for hours. I checked our credit card statements, nothing. No receipts. No shopping bags when she came home. That's when I started paying attention. One Friday, I faked a work emergency and left early. As I pulled up to the house, I saw her standing way too close to Marco. She was twirling her hair, and he had this cocky smirk on his face. The final nail in the coffin? Her hand resting on his arm, fingers trailing down just a little too slow. She had no idea I was watching. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I made a plan. If she thought she could humiliate me like this, she had another thing coming. I didn't sleep that night. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to Laura breathing peacefully beside me like she wasn't sneaking around with the guy who trimmed our damn hedges. My mind raced with possibilities. Should I confront her? Catch them in the act? Burn the whole thing down with a dramatic reveal? No, that would be too easy for her. She wanted to play games? Fine. I'd play too. The next morning, I acted like nothing was wrong. I kissed her on the cheek, told her I had a busy day ahead, and left for work. But instead of heading to the office, I made a quick stop at Best Buy and picked up a couple of hidden cameras, tiny little things, easy to hide. I spent my lunch break installing them in strategic spots around the backyard, inside the house, and most importantly, near the patio where she and Marco spent their innocent little chats. Then, I waited. Laura had no idea that by the end of the week, I'd have all the proof I needed. That night, she was glued to her phone. I pretended to be scrolling through my emails, but I was watching her, how she'd smirk at the screen, type something, then quickly flip the phone over if I so much as glanced in her direction. It was obvious. She was texting him. I leaned over and wrapped an arm around her, kissing her temple. Everything okay? I asked, keeping my tone casual. She tensed for just a second before forcing a smile. Yeah, just chatting with Patricia. Patricia. Her best friend. The same Patricia who I was now certain had no idea she was being used as an alibi. I nodded, acting like I bought it. Tell her I said hi. Laura smiled, relaxed, and turned back to her phone. Meanwhile, I already had one hand on my own phone, pulling up the live feed from the cameras. If my hunch was right, I wouldn't have to wait long. And I was right. The next day, I pretended to leave for work. I kissed Laura goodbye, grabbed my briefcase, and even made a show of complaining about some imaginary meeting I had to attend. Then, instead of driving off, I parked around the corner and pulled up the camera feed on my phone. It didn't take long. Less than 20 minutes after I left, Marco showed up. No lawnmower, no tools, nothing. Just him, strolling up to my house like he owned the place. Laura opened the door in a silk robe, her silk robe, and let him inside without hesitation. My hands clenched into fists as I watched them. The cameras didn't pick up sound, but they didn't need to. The way she smiled at him, the way he touched her waist as he walked past her into my home, I knew exactly what was happening. I watched as they disappeared into the house, heading straight for our bedroom. Our bedroom. I gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. I had suspected it. I had even prepared for it. But seeing it, watching her betray me in real time, it was something else entirely. But I didn't storm in. No, I let them have their moment. Let them enjoy whatever sick little affair they thought they were getting away with. Because when I got my revenge, it was going to be so much worse than a simple confrontation. Instead of barging in, I drove off. I needed time to think, to plan my next move. Bursting in on them might feel good in the moment, but I wanted something that would hurt. Something that would break her the way she was breaking me. And then it hit me. I knew exactly how I was going to get back at her. And it started with her best friend, Patricia. I didn't waste time. As soon as I had a plan, I put it into motion. Patricia and Laura had been best friends for years, the kind of friends who told each other everything, or so I thought. What Laura didn't know was that Patricia and I had always gotten along a little too well. She was attractive, sure, but more importantly, she had a flirty side, and I had caught her looking at me more than once when she thought no one was watching. If there was anyone I could use to turn this situation around, It was her. That afternoon, I sent Patricia a text. Me, hey, you busy? She replied almost immediately. Patricia, not really. What's up? Me, just needed someone to talk to. Mind grabbing a drink later? Patricia, of course. What's wrong? I smiled to myself. She took the bait. Me, I'd rather talk in person. See you at 7? Patricia, sure. You know I'm always here for you. Red heart. That last part? The heart emoji? Yeah, that told me everything I needed to know. At exactly 7 p.m., I met Patricia at a quiet bar across town, far enough that we wouldn't run into anyone we knew. When I walked in, she was already waiting, dressed up a little more than usual, hair done, makeup perfect, wearing a tight little dress that wasn't just for a casual drink with a friend's husband. She stood up to hug me, and let's just say, it lasted a little longer than it needed to. I ordered us drinks and, for the first 30 minutes, played the role of the heartbroken husband. I told her I had my suspicions, how I wasn't sure what to do, how I felt like my world was falling apart. I even let my voice break a little for effect. And Patricia? She ate it up. She touched my hand, told me how awful Laura was for doing this to me, how I deserved so much better, how she always thought I was such a good man. Then, when I felt the moment was right, I looked into her eyes, sighed, and said, I just don't know what I'd do without you, Patricia. You've always been there for me. Her breath hitched. She bit her lip. And that's when I knew. This wasn't just a game to her. She wanted me. And I was going to use that to destroy Laura. Patricia was hooked, and I can see it in the way she leaned in closer, the way her fingers lingered on mine when she touched my hand, the way she licked her lips when she thought I wasn't looking. I let the tension build. For the next hour, I played the role of the broken man, lost, vulnerable, needing comfort. And Patricia? She was more than willing to provide it. By the time we were on our second round of drinks, she was opening up to me too. I don't want to badmouth Laura, she said, her voice dripping with fake concern, but I've seen the way she acts sometimes. She doesn't appreciate you like she should. Bingo. I sighed, rubbing my temples like I was just now realizing it. I guess I've been blind. I always thought we were solid, you know? Patricia put her hand on my thigh. Bold move. You deserve so much better, Ryan. Oh, I know. I looked at her, hesitated just long enough to make her think I was conflicted, then gave her a small, sad smile. I don't know what I'd do without you, Patricia. You're the only person I can trust right now. She exhaled sharply, and for a second, I thought she might jump across the table and kiss me right there. I had her exactly where I wanted. After another drink, I played my next card. I don't want to go home tonight, I said, shaking my head. I can't be in that house knowing what she's doing. Patricia's eyes widened, her excitement barely contained. You can come to my place, she said, way too fast. Then she caught herself and tried to sound casual. Just to talk, of course. You shouldn't be alone right now. Yeah, okay. I agreed, and we left together. The second we stepped inside her apartment, she wasted no time. The just to talk excuse was gone. She pulled me in for a kiss, pressing her body against mine like she had been waiting for this moment for years. And you know what? I let it happen. Because I wanted Laura to find out. And trust me, she would. I woke up the next morning in Patricia's bed, her bare leg draped over mine, her arm curled around my chest like she never wanted to let go. Mission accomplished. I didn't feel guilty. Not even a little. I lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, thinking about what came next. Sleeping with Patricia wasn't just about revenge. It was about setting the trap. Laura thought she was the only one who could play games. She had no idea she was about to lose. Carefully, I slid out of Patricia's grip, grabbed my phone from the nightstand, and took a picture of her lying there, tangled in the sheets, looking very comfortable. I made sure her face wasn't visible, just enough of her hair, her arm, and her silhouette to make it clear what had happened. Then, I texted Laura. We need to talk. I know everything. She responded within seconds. Laura, what are you talking about? I'll be home in an hour. Be there. I didn't wait for a reply. I had just dropped the first bomb, and now it was time to watch the explosion. Patricia stirred, stretching with a satisfied smile. Good morning. I forced a small smile. Morning. I need to head home soon. Her face fell, but she covered it quickly. Yeah, of course. But last night was amazing. I nodded, giving her exactly what she wanted to hear. Yeah, it was. Her fingers trailed down my arm. This doesn't have to be just a one-time thing, you know. I meant what I said, Ryan. You deserve better than her. I kissed her forehead. We'll talk later, okay? She beamed. She thought she won. She had no idea she was just a pawn in a much bigger game. I got dressed, left Patricia's apartment, and drove home. My heart was pounding, not with nerves, but with pure anticipation. Laura was about to face her own medicine, and I was going to enjoy every second of it. When I walked through the front door, she was already there, pacing the living room. The moment she saw me, she folded her arms, putting on her innocent act. "What's this about?" she asked, tilting her head like I was the one causing problems. I smirked, pulled out my phone, and held it up. "Take a wild guess." I watched her face as she saw the picture. Her expression went from confused to shocked to pure, uncontrolled rage. And I just stood there, waiting for the fireworks. Because this was only the beginning. Laura's face twisted in rage, her eyes darting between me and my phone, her mouth opening and closing like she couldn't decide if she wanted to scream or cry. You slept with someone?" She finally spat out, her voice shaking. I leaned against the wall, completely calm. "Oh, I'm sorry. Is cheating only a problem when it happens to you?" Her nostrils flared. "Who is she?" I smirked. "Why do you care? You've been screwing the gardener in our house for weeks." Her face went pale for a split second before she recovered. "You're insane," she hissed. "You have no proof." I laughed. She actually thought she could lie her way out of this. I pulled up my real evidence, the hidden camera footage. I hit play and watched her crumble. There she was, in her silk robe, welcoming Marco inside. Him touching her waist. The way she giggled like a damn teenager. And then, the part that made my blood boil, them heading upstairs. Laura's lips parted, and for a moment, she had nothing to say. Then, she did what cheaters always do. She flipped it on me. "You set up cameras?" she shrieked. "That's disgusting. That's a violation of privacy." I pushed off the wall, stepping closer. "Privacy? In my house? Where you were screwing some guy behind my back?" "Yeah, I don't give a damn about your privacy, Laura." She clenched her fists, shaking with rage. "So you what? You ran off and slept with some whore for revenge." I tilted my head, still smirking. "That's the best part," I said slowly. "It wasn't just some random woman." Her eyes narrowed. "What the hell does that mean?" I took a deep breath, savoring the moment. Then, I dropped the bomb. "You know exactly who she is," I said. "Because you tell her everything." Realization slammed into her. Her face twisted in horror. "Patricia?" I shrugged. She was very eager to comfort me. Laura screamed. I swear, I thought she was going to lunge at me, but she just stood there, fist clenched, shaking like a volcano about to erupt. "You slept with my best friend?" she shrieked. I crossed my arms. "Yeah, the same way you slept with the gardener. Differences, I made sure you found out." She was completely unraveling, pacing in circles, yanking at her hair. She wouldn't do that to me." I smirked. "You sure about that?" I let that sink in. Let her picture Patricia in bed with me. Let her really feel what betrayal tastes like. And then, when I knew she was about to snap, I stepped back and said, "Pack your shit, Laura. We're done." And just like that, I walked out. But trust me, this was far from over. Laura didn't take it well. The moment I told her to pack her things, she went into full meltdown mode, screaming, throwing pillows, knocking over a lamp like some dramatic movie scene. "You bastard," she shrieked. "You think you can just sleep with my best friend and kick me out?" I folded my arms, completely unfazed. "That's exactly what I'm doing." She stormed up to me, shoving my chest like she actually thought I'd feel bad. "I made one mistake," she spat. "And you go and do this? How could you?" I tilted my head. "One mistake." I laughed, pulling my phone back out. "Should we count how many times Marco came over while I was at work?" I scrolled through the timestamps, flicking through each and every time he was here. "Let's see, 1, 2, 3, oh, wow, 16 visits in the past month." I looked up at her, smirking. "That's not one mistake, Laura. That's a relationship." She froze. For the first time since this all started, she didn't have a comeback. And that's when the waterworks started. Tears welled up in her eyes, her whole demeanor shifting from rage to pathetic desperation. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she whispered. "Ryan, Stop." My voice was sharp. Don't stand there and act like this was some accident." She wiped at her face, sniffling. "But Patricia, how could you?" I smirked. "Oh, that's what hurts the most, huh? That I gave you a taste of your own medicine?" She opened her mouth, then closed it. Her lips trembled, but she had nothing to say. I grabbed my keys off the counter. "You've got until tomorrow to get your things," I said. "Stay with Patricia, stay with Marco, I don't care. But you're not staying here." Her jaw dropped. "You're kicking me out of my own house." I scoffed. "Your house." I gestured around. "I pay the mortgage. I pay the bills. You don't even have a job, Laura." She swallowed hard, realizing I was dead serious. And then, because she couldn't help herself, she tried one last trick. Her voice softened. "Ryan, baby, please. We can fix this. We were happy once. Don't throw everything away." I leaned in, just enough for her to think she was getting somewhere. Then, I whispered, "You already threw it away." And with that, I walked out the door. But trust me, this wasn't the end. Laura wasn't the type to go down without a fight. And what happened next? Even I didn't see it coming. I thought that was it. I thought Laura would pack her things, maybe cry to Patricia, which would be hilarious considering what I did with her, and then she'd be out of my life. I was wrong. The next morning, I expected her to be gone. Instead, I walked downstairs to find her sitting at the kitchen table, drinking coffee like nothing had happened. She looked up at me with this smug, defiant expression. Morning. I clenched my jaw. Why are you still here? She took a slow sip, not answering right away. Then she smirked. You think you can just kick me out? She said, tilting her head. This is my house too, Ryan. I laughed. A real, genuine laugh. You don't have a job. You don't pay for anything. What part of this house is yours exactly? She shrugged. Doesn't matter. Legally, I can't just be kicked out because we're married. I narrowed my eyes. You really want to play that game? She just smiled and took another sip of coffee. That's when I knew. She wasn't going to leave without a fight. Fine. I was ready for one. I pulled out my phone and started typing. What are you doing? She asked, her confidence wavering just a little. I smirked. Calling a lawyer. Her face dropped. I stepped out onto the patio, letting the cold morning air calm me as I made the call. I gave the lawyer a quick rundown. Cheating wife. I own everything. I want her gone. His answer? We can make that happen. I hung up, feeling lighter. But when I stepped back inside, Laura was waiting for me with a new plan. I talked to Patricia last night, she said casually, standing by the sink. I raised an eyebrow. Oh yeah? How'd that go? She turned, eyes cold. She told me everything. I kept my face neutral. Everything. Laura's lips curled into something between rage and pain. About how you went crying to her, about how you used her to get back at me. I chuckled. Oh, now you care about betrayal? She ignored that. I just have one question, Ryan. I folded my arms. Go ahead. Her hands gripped the counter. Did you even like it? Or was it all just to hurt me? I smiled. A slow, deliberate smile. And then I said the one thing that I knew would break her. Oh, I loved it. Her breath hitched. I could see it, the exact moment I broke her. She was shaking now, blinking fast, trying to hold herself together. But she couldn't. She finally understood. She thought she could cheat on me and walk away unscathed. She thought I'd be the devastated husband, begging her to stay. But no, I was the man who beat her at her own game. Her voice was barely above a whisper. You're a monster. I grabbed my keys and smiled. And you're homeless. Then I walked out, leaving her standing there, shattered. But trust me, Laura wasn't done yet. And the next thing she did? It changed everything. I should have known Laura wouldn't just take the loss and leave quietly. That wasn't her style. When I got back home later that evening, I was expecting an empty house, or at the very least, some pathetic attempt at manipulation. What I wasn't expecting was to find Marco sitting on my damn couch, legs spread wide, smirking, acting like he owned the place. And Laura? Standing beside him, arms crossed, a smug grin on her face. My blood boiled instantly. Get the hell out of my house, I said, my voice calm but filled with pure rage. Marco leaned back, totally relaxed. Nah, man, he said, stretching like this was just another day at his side gig of screwing married women. Laura invited me over. I shot her a glare. You've got some nerve. She lifted her chin. You think you can humiliate me? Sleep with my best friend? Then throw me out like trash. She scoffed. You don't get to win that easily, Ryan. I took a deep breath, clenching my fists so I wouldn't put Marco through the damn drywall. Let me get this straight, I said slowly. You cheat on me. I catch you. You try to gaslight me. And now that you finally realize you lost, this is your brilliant plan? Bringing your little boy toy here too. What? Make me jealous. Laura smirked. Jealous? Please. I just wanted you to see what it feels like. How does it feel, Ryan? Seeing another man in your house. I laughed. A real, deep, amused as hell laugh. Because this was pathetic. I turned to Marco. You really think this is a flex? You're sitting in a house that's not yours, with a woman who was never yours, trying to piss off a man who doesn't give a damn about either of you. Marco's smirk faltered. I stepped closer. Let me tell you how this is going to go, tough guy. You're going to get your ass off my couch. You're going to walk out that door, and you're never coming back. Marco stood up, puffing out his chest like he actually thought he had a shot against me. Laura placed a hand on his arm. Babe, don't. I lost it. I laughed harder. Oh my God, she called you babe. I shook my head. You really think she gives a damn about you? That she's going to ride off into the sunset with her sexy gardener? Marco's eyes narrowed. I leaned in, just enough to make sure he heard every single word. You're just the guy she used to distract herself when I wasn't around, I said. And now, you're just another loser who got played by a married woman. Marco's jaw clenched. Say that again. I grinned. You're a damn idiot. His fist swung. I saw it coming a mile away. I ducked, grabbed his arm, and twisted it behind his back in one smooth motion. Marco grunted, trying to break free, but I shoved him forward, sending him crashing into the coffee table. Laura screamed. Ryan, stop. I stood over Marco, who was now groaning on the floor. Get the hell out of my house, I said again, my voice deadly calm. He scrambled to his feet, rubbing his shoulder. His cocky attitude? Gone. He threw Laura a desperate look, but she just stood there, completely silent. Even she knew she backed the wrong horse. Marco muttered something under his breath and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. And Laura? She was shaking. I grabbed my phone. I'm calling the cops next time you bring some random dude into my house. You've got until tomorrow to get out. After that, you're trespassing. She glared at me through teary eyes. You'll regret this. I smirked. No, Laura. You will. And just like that, the game was over. Or so I thought. Because the next morning, Laura pulled the dirtiest trick yet. And this time, she had legal backup. I woke up the next morning, feeling like I had finally won. Laura had no more tricks left. No more leverage. She was done. Or so I thought. When I walked downstairs, coffee in hand, I heard a knock at the door. I opened it, expecting Laura with some pathetic attempt at an apology. Instead, I found a police officer standing on my porch. Ryan Matthews? The cop asked, his expression unreadable. My stomach dropped. Yeah, that's me. We got a report of domestic violence at this residence. What the hell? I blinked. Come again. He pulled out a small notepad. Your wife, Laura Matthews, is alleging that you assaulted her and a guest in your home yesterday. She claims she no longer feels safe here. My grip tightened around my coffee mug. That lying, manipulative, cheating. I forced myself to stay calm. Officer, that's complete bullshit. She's trying to get back at me because I caught her cheating and kicked her out. The cop didn't react. Do you have any proof of that? Oh, you bet your ass I do. I pulled out my phone, opened the hidden camera app, and scrolled through the footage. Take a look at this, I said, handing it over. He watched as Laura invited Marco into my house, saw how Marco threw the first punch, saw me defending myself. Then, the best part, the audio from inside the house where Laura admitted to cheating and plotting against me. The officer exhaled. Yeah, that's not exactly what she told us. I scoffed. Shocking. He handed me back my phone. All right, Mr. Matthews. Looks like this was a false report. But I need to advise you. Your wife has filed for a temporary restraining order. I nearly laughed in his face. Against me? In my own house. He nodded. According to the order, you'll have to leave the premises until the court date in 2 weeks. Unbelievable. That bitch was trying to steal my house from under me. I clenched my jaw. So let me get this straight. She cheats on me, brings another man into my house, tries to gaslight me, and now I'm the one who has to leave. The officer sighed. I don't make the rules, sir. I just enforce them. I took a deep breath. I wanted to scream, to break something, to kick Laura out myself, but I wasn't going to let her win. Instead, I nodded. Fine. I'll leave. But tell her one thing for me. The cop raised an eyebrow. Yeah. Tell her she just made the biggest mistake of her life. I packed a bag, walked out the door, and vowed to end this once and for all. Because if Laura thought she had one, she had no idea what was coming next. And when I was done with her, she wouldn't have a damn thing left. I spent the next 2 weeks planning my final move. Laura thought she had beaten me, thought she had me cornered. She got me kicked out of my own house, filed a bogus restraining order, and probably imagined herself sitting pretty while I scrambled to pick up the pieces. But what she didn't know was that I wasn't just sitting around. I was burying her. First, I went straight to my lawyer and handed over everything, the hidden camera footage, the texts, the timestamps proving her affair, and the false police report she filed against me. The lawyer's eyes widened as he looked through it all. Jesus, he muttered. She really played herself, huh? I smirked. She has no idea what's coming. We moved fast. Step 1. File for divorce with infidelity as the cause, with my evidence, that meant Laura wouldn't get a damn cent from me. Step 2. Counter the restraining order with a lawsuit for defamation and filing a false police report. The video footage proved I was the victim, not her. Step 3. Since I was the sole owner of the house, my lawyer filed a motion to have her removed immediately. I wanted her gone. For good. The court date finally arrived. Laura walked in looking smug as hell, until she saw me sitting there with my lawyer, a thick-ass folder of evidence, and a cold, satisfied grin. The judge went through everything. The affair? Proven. The false police report? Proven. The house? Legally mine. Laura tried to argue, tried to play the victim, but the moment my lawyer showed the footage of her and Marco, game over. The judge tore into her. Her restraining order? Dismissed. Her attempt to claim the house? Denied. Her shot at taking anything from me? Gone. By the end of it, Laura sat there speechless, realizing she had lost everything. And me? I just sat back, watching her world burn. After the hearing, she caught up to me outside. Her face was pale, her eyes wild. Ryan, wait. I turned, staring at her like she was nothing. She swallowed hard. Can we just talk? I smirked. Talk? Like how you talked with Marco? She winced. I made a mistake. Yeah, Laura. You did. And now? You get to live with it. Her lips trembled. But I have nowhere to go. I laughed. Laughed right in her face. Not my problem, I said coldly. Maybe Marco has a spare couch. And with that, I walked away. Laura called after me, but I didn't turn around. She was nothing to me now. By the time I got home, her things were gone. The house was mine again. I poured myself a drink, leaned back on the couch, and let it all sink in. I had one. And Laura? She was just another bad memory.